For the last 6 months, we have faced a global challenge, the likes of which many of us have never seen in our lifetime. Canadians can be proud of our response. We've shown that in hard times, we take care of each other. The pandemic has also shown us the cost of negligence and inaction. Most of the lives lost were in long-term care homes. Our seniors deserve to be cared for with dignity. We deserve to know that our parents and our grandparents are safe. Canadians were shocked to see that the government had to send in the army to help save seniors in long-term care homes. Il fallait envoyer l'armée dans nos établissements de soins de longue durée. La situation était tellement terrible que les soldats se sont sentis obligés de faire un rapport sur les négligences nombreuses. There clearly needs to be more funding for long-term care. But nothing will change if that money goes to shareholder profits instead of better care for our loved ones. Profit has no place in our healthcare system. We can no longer have a healthcare system where the ability to buy medicine or get your teeth fixed depends on having a job with benefits or enough savings in your account. The Liberals first promised pharmacare over 2 decades ago. People need to be able to get their medication with their health card, not their credit card. Over the last several months, we've seen millions of Canadians lose their jobs. Many have not returned to work. Many simply can't. When the pandemic hit, New Democrats knew that Canadians would need help to pay their bills. But Justin Trudeau's answer was an employment insurance that leaves most people out. New Democrats have made a difference for people. We fought for the help for everyone that needed it. When the Prime Minister left out students, we fought for them. When he left out seniors, we fought for them. When he left out people living with disabilities, we fought for them. When he refused to provide paid sick leave to workers, we fought for them. And every time he threatened to cut the help for people who needed it, we fought back. We fought for a wage subsidy so that people could keep their jobs and businesses could keep going. And we will keep fighting. L'NBT s'est battu pour aider tous ceux et celles qui en avaient besoin. Lorsque le Premier ministre a laissé tomber les étudiants, les personnes âgées, les personnes handicapées, les travailleurs, nous nous sommes battus. Nous nous sommes battus pour une subvention salariale afin que les gens puissent garder leur emploi et que les entreprises puissent continuer à fonctionner. Et chaque fois qu'elle a menacé de supprimer l'aide aux personnes qui en avaient besoin, nous nous sommes battus. Doctors are telling us that a second wave of the pandemic is coming. That could mean more shutdowns and more job losses. But our safety net is still broken. We need an employment insurance that's there for everyone, that covers everyone, and better ways to make sure that all Canadians have the money they need to live. Justin Trudeau has put forward a plan that will actually cut help to people in the middle of a pandemic. That's wrong. New Democrats will fight for you to get the help you need. We know that Canadians want to get back to work. And one of the best ways to create jobs and fight the climate crisis is to build affordable housing and make the homes we live in better for the environment. For many Canadians, finding a home you could afford was a crisis before the pandemic. It's only gotten worse. Finding a place to buy or to rent is out of reach for many Canadians, especially young people. Young people who have lost their jobs, lost their ability to go to school, and lost their home. In the North and in First Nations communities, lack of good housing leads to crowded conditions that hurts people's health. The climate crisis hasn't gone away. Justin Trudeau bought a pipeline, and his government hasn't taken action to reduce emissions. They have missed every single climate goal they have set. Building and retrofitting housing in all communities across Canada will be an investment that helps us fight the climate crisis and lifts up people, but the government needs to start now. People with children at home have faced tremendous challenges during this pandemic. Parents are worried about their kids being safe and worried about their jobs. New Democrats have always fought for good, quality, affordable, universal childcare because we know the economy doesn't work without it. If the Liberals had built a universal childcare system the first time they promised it, more than 20 years ago, parents would know their kids had a safe place to go. Parents can't wait another 20 years for childcare. It's time to create more spaces that families can afford. Let's give our kids the high quality early childhood education we know they deserve. Au Québec, nous avons vu l'effet des coupures en santé par les libéraux et les conservateurs. Un système de soins à longue durée où plusieurs établissements privés tournent les coins ronds pour faire des profits. Des centaines de nos aînés sont morts en partie pour ça. Nous avons vu que les femmes portent la majorité du fardeau de cette pandémie. Nous avons vu les gens au bout du souffle qui ont de la misère à joindre les deux bouts pendant que les plus riches s'enrichissent. Nous avons vu des petites entreprises qui ferment pendant que les Amazon et les Facebook de ce monde font des profits records. Et il faut que ça change, et il faut que ça change maintenant. Ce n'est pas le temps des chicanes, de clôture, c'est le temps de travailler ensemble pour régler ces problèmes une fois pour toutes. Si les libéraux de Justin Trudeau sont prêts à arrêter de prioriser leurs amis et les plus riches, nous sommes prêts à travailler avec eux pour rebâtir pour mieux. Un système de santé entièrement public, où le gouvernement paye sa juste part et où les Québécois ont accès à une assurance médicaments entièrement publique. Une société où tout le monde peut avoir un logement sécuritaire et abordable. Un avenir où nos jeunes auront des opportunités d'emploi et de carrière aussi prometteuses que leurs parents. Un gouvernement fédéral qui se bat contre la crise climatique comme ils veulent vraiment gagner la bataille plutôt que d'acheter un oléoduc et de subventionner les grands pétrolières. Voilà la vision du NPD pour une société plus juste et plus égalitaire. Canadians are right to be worried about who will pay for the pandemic and the recovery. In Canada, the super rich and big corporations have made billions during the pandemic. They're not struggling. They've profited off this crisis. Big grocery stores had a massive increase in profits, and they cut the wages for the workers who kept their stores open. Mega companies like Netflix and Amazon pay virtually no tax in Canada. Tax loopholes and giveaways continue to let the richest Canadians get away without paying their fair share. This isn't an accident. the system designed by the parties of Justin Trudeau and Erin O'Toole don't work for working people. It works for the rich and powerful. Canadians who are worried about paying the bills shouldn't be the ones paying for the pandemic. Those who made billions off this crisis should pay for the recovery. We know that the pandemic is not the only crisis Canadians are facing. Climate fires are making the air impossible to breathe in our cities. Anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism continues to take lives. New, horrible records have been set in overdose deaths. These are all problems that governments can help solve if they choose to act. Justin Trudeau cannot stay on the sidelines. Canada has an important role to play in the world. This is a global pandemic affecting people everywhere. The help that Canada provides to other countries can slow the pandemic and eventually end it. Months ago, I spoke about the desire to go back to normal. I want to go back to normal, go back to the things that used to be normal. But we need to change the things that weren't working. Building back better has to mean better for everyone, not just for the ones at the top. We can't go back to a healthcare system that didn't cover everyone, or where making money was more important than caring for our loved ones. We can't go back to a time when you had to go to work sick because you could not afford to stay home. We can't go back to a time when people who didn't have enough work or enough money were left behind to figure it out on their own. We need to learn the simple lesson of this pandemic. We are stronger. We are better when we take care of each other. Au début de la pandémie, j'ai parlé du désir de revenir à la normale. Mais nous ne pouvons pas revenir à la normale si nous ne changeons pas ce qui ne fonctionnait pas. Reconstruire en mieux doit signifier mieux pour tout le monde et pas seulement pour ceux au sommet. Cette pandémie nous a montré que nous sommes meilleurs, nous sommes plus forts lorsque nous prenons soin les uns des autres. Un discours de tronc, c'est juste des mots sur papier. Et ce Premier ministre nous a montré à plusieurs reprises que ses actions ne correspondent pas à ses paroles. Mon engagement envers les Canadiens est que les néo-démocrates continueront à se battre pour vous, tout comme nous l'avons fait chaque jour de cette pandémie. Et nous n'arrêtons pas de nous battre pour vos familles, pour les soins de santé, pour un environnement plus sain et pour la justice et les droits de la personne. Au Parlement et à chaque jour, notre priorité est de nous battre pour vous. Lots of people have asked me about the throne speech that will happen next week. A throne speech is just words on paper. And this Prime Minister has shown us time and time again that his actions don't match his words. My commitment to Canadians is that New Democrats will keep fighting for you, just as we have done every day of this pandemic. Because you elected New Democrats, we were there to fight for you, to fight for the help you needed. And we won't stop fighting for your families, for health care, for good jobs and a healthy environment, and for justice and human rights. We will keep fighting to make sure that Parliament works for you. Thank you. Merci. And I'm ready to take the questions you might have.
specifically you'll be telling Prime Minister Trudeau this afternoon in terms of what you need for a throne speech, to offer support for the throne speech?
Certainly. So first off, I want to make it clear that I won't be surprised if the Prime Minister includes a lot of what we've been asking for in the throne speech. But then again, the Prime Minister often says one thing, then does another. We've heard in previous throne speeches many promises, and no action was taken for farmer care, for dental care, for help to fight the climate crisis. We've not seen any concrete action, even before the pandemic hit. So what I'll put to the Prime Minister is that instead of the words on paper, we want to see some action. One concrete step is this: the Prime Minister is putting forward legislation that will cut the help that people need while the second wave is imminent. I will be asking the Prime Minister to take that back and to not cut the help that families need, that people who can't go back to work and many who will not be able to go back if there's a second round of lockdowns. We need to make sure help is there for families and it is not cut and it is easy to access. So I'll be putting that to the Prime Minister.
And in terms of, you talked a little bit about the people who profited off the pandemic paying for the recovery. I know your party's talked about a wealth tax before. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has said that it would bring in about $6 billion, which wouldn't be that much in the scheme of this pandemic and the money. How do you see Canada's finances being managed in that context?
Well, there's a number of things. We propose not just a wealth tax, which we absolutely believe, a tax on those who've got fortunes of over $20 million. We also need to close the offshore tax loopholes that allow for massive amounts of wealth created in Canada to be shipped overseas and not a cent of that to be taxed in Canada. That needs to end. And then we talk about the billions of dollars made by massive corporations that pay virtually no tax in Canada. So we're the only party willing to take on the ultra rich and say that they should pay their fair share, not just with the wealth tax, but those who make profits here and don't pay taxes here, and also the loopholes that allow many people to hide their massive wealth and not contribute back to Canada.
J'aurais une question.
Oui.
Oui, en fait, ma question est par rapport, je me demandais si le NPD allait soutenir la proposition du gouvernement du Québec d'étendre la loi 101 aux organismes de juridiction fédérale.
Oui, on a déjà dit qu'on appuie cette demande du gouvernement du Québec. C'est quelque chose qu'on a déjà engagé comme parti dans notre campagne électorale et on pense que c'est essentiel pour défendre la langue morière, la langue française.
OK. Petit suivi. Est-ce que le NPD compte exercer des pressions sur le gouvernement pour accélérer le projet de modernisation de la loi sur les langues officielles?
Oui, c'est aussi quelque chose qu'on a parlé pendant la campagne électorale, l'importance de moderniser les lois sur les langues officielles. Encore, pour moi, c'est ma rêve qu'on crée un pays qui est vraiment un pays où on parle les deux langues officielles. Et pour faire ça, il faut renforcer et moderniser les lois. Et c'est exactement ce qu'on pense qu'il doit faire.
Et peut-être une dernière question. Entre ces deux enjeux linguistiques-là, quelle serait la priorité du NPD?
En général, la priorité, c'est ça que je personnellement apprécie la culture distincte que la francophonie a créée et c'est un élément identitaire unique et spécial du Canada et je veux qu'on fasse le travail nécessaire pour protéger la langue française, en général, c'est quelque chose de tellement important. Je pense que pratiquement, la loi 101, c'est quelque chose qu'on peut faire tout de suite et c'est simple de faire. Et en général, la modernisation va prendre plus de temps, mais c'est aussi important.
OK, merci.
Je vous en prie.
Yeah, sir, I'm wondering if your party's prepared to fight an election should that have to happen?
And we are absolutely prepared to fight an election. But I want to be very clear about this point. It is not my goal to tear down government. It is not my goal to force an election. My goal and New Democrats' goal is to fight for people. We want to deliver the help that people need. And to do that, we are willing to look at all options. But we know with the coming second wave, with the help that Canadians need right now, our focus is on making sure that families, working people, small businesses get the help they need. We know that the richest have made profits in this pandemic, but everyday people have actually felt the pain. And so we need to get help to them. But if the Liberal government continues down a path where they're more interested in helping themselves, they get caught up in scandal, and they're not willing to do what's necessary, the vision that we put out to help people, and they're more worried about helping themselves, then we are prepared to fight an election. But again, it is not my goal. My goal is to fight for people.
Are you taking a more cautious approach to bringing in an election, given that there's a pandemic underway, that we could be heading into a second wave, and that potentially a campaign might not be something that would help the health situation?
Well, specifically, I know that there are a couple of things unique about our situation. We've only been a year into this election, and people have said, we should continue to fight to make Parliament work for people. And in addition, there's certain supports that are simply not there. The social safety net is not there for people, and the federal government is in the best position to deliver a national safety net that provides support to Canadians. And right now, with CERB ending, the Liberal government ending CERB at the end of this month, there is no support in place to help Canadians who are going to be faced with a second wave. So for those really immediate concerns of people, we need to deliver that support before we consider an election. But again, I'm ready to fight one. It's just, given the gravity of that decision, I take it very seriously, and I believe the most important thing to do right now is to fight for people, to make sure there's supports in place, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
You mentioned just there that it has been less than a year since the last election. Given that, if the Liberals should lose the support of the House, would you consider trying to form some sort of a coalition to continue governing without an election?
Well, again, my focus is going to be what's in the best interest of people. So if there's a path for me to pass legislation that gives support and help to people in need, if there's a way for me to continue to find ways to support families, workers, small businesses, if we can continue to get help to people, I will explore all options that help people. But I will not walk down a path where there's a suggestion of austerity or cutting the services people need, cutting healthcare when we need to invest in healthcare. If there's any suggestion of cutting the help that people need, that is not something that me or my party will support. But if there's a path to supporting people, investing in people, lifting people up, that's what we'll do. Thank you for the question. So our plan right now is we need to put in place something immediate that can provide help to all Canadians. The current proposal that's on the table from the Liberal government is changes to EI. If we can propose changes that are immediate using an existing program so we do not have to wait, our plan is, our goal is, how can we get help to people immediately in the quickest way possible with an imminent second wave? We are open to all options to provide that support. Effectively, at the beginning of this pandemic, we said that CERB should be universal. It should go to everyone in need. And again, we still believe that there should be help in place for everyone that needs it. I'm not worried about the title of that support, what it's called. I just want to see money in people's pockets when they cannot work, when they're forced not to work through no fault of their own. People need to have supports, and that's our goal. How can we get help? how can we get money into people's pockets when they are not able to work. For many Canadians, millions of Canadians, their sectors and their industries are not there for them. Their jobs are not there for them. They need help, and we're going to be there to fight for them.
En français, s'il te plaît?
Oui, donc pour moi, le titre de l'appui, ce n'est pas important. Pour moi, le fait qu'on livre la marchandise, c'est important. Donc, comment on peut aider les gens directement, les gens qui ne peuvent pas travailler à cause de COVID-19 et dans l'avenir très proche, le fait qu'on peut avoir une deuxième vague, c'est clair par rapport les scientifiques qu'on va avoir une deuxième vague de COVID-19. Donc, comment on peut livrer l'appui directement, le financement directement aux gens, ça c'est pour moi la priorité. Comment on peut faire ça dans la manière la plus efficace et plus vite, ça c'est ma priorité et je suis prêt de faire ça.
Any last questions online? Dernière question en ligne? Merci, thank you.
Thank you so much. Merci.